Now, without further ado, the next speaker is someone very important to the pharmaceutical industry from Pharmaceutical Association of Malaysia, which is one of the official partners of our Disruptive Doctors Conference and Exhibition this year, 2025. The topic is going to be on Code of Ethics, which is super important for all practitioners of medicine. And PhAMA, along with other regulatory authorities, help design these Code of Ethics. Please welcome, put your hands together and welcome Ms. Chan Li Jin, the Executive Director of Pharmaceutical Association of Malaysia.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Floor is all yours.
Lunch break? That's fine.
Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, doctors. It's very challenging to stand here just before lunchtime, yeah? And I realize that we're a little bit over time as well, so I try to keep this very quick. And also because I have a lot of slides and very little time. So please bear with me because I am going to speak very fast. Yeah, they gave me so little time, so I have to macam kereta api like that lah. So please bear with me, yeah? And we have a booth outside, so just in case anything that I say is much too fast or you don't understand, you can catch us outside. We'll be here for 2 days. Thanks for staying for this session. In fact, I was laughing at what the previous panel was saying because this is exactly what we do as an association for the industry. So basically what I'm going to talk about today would be some updates to what's happening in the industry. So apart from knowing about career options, which I'm sure you're all interested in, you also would like to know about what's happening in the industry, what's new. So I'm just going to share 2 new things on what's happening. The first is our Code of Practice, which has just been reviewed. And of course, e-labeling, which is something which all doctors need to be aware of. So just to set the groundwork, yeah, because sometimes when we speak about the pharmaceutical industry, a lot of people may not be aware that in Malaysia, there are 3 different associations that deal with the pharmaceutical industry. So PhAMA is just one of them. Yeah, and we were lucky because the earlier session, all the 3 speakers that were invited were from my association, Pharmaceutical Association of Malaysia. So I will explain a little bit very quickly on what PhAMA does. But apart from PhAMA, there are 2 other associations. There is also MAPS, that is the Malaysian Association of Pharmaceutical Supplies, and they deal mostly with the import of generic medicines, some single-source medicines as well, and there is also an equally large pharmaceutical association known as MOPI, Malaysian Organisation of Pharmaceutical Industries. So they would mainly deal with all the companies that are the local manufacturers of pharmaceutical products here in Malaysia. So there are 3 associations, yeah. So earlier, when we were talking about careers, I'm just going to eat a little bit into what the earlier panelist was talking about. When we talk about career in the pharmaceutical industry, it's not just from the multinationals. You can also apply to work with the local pharmaceutical manufacturers here in Malaysia. But the experience, the job scope, the requirements may be slightly different. Yeah, so if you were to work with the pharmaceutical industry that we heard just now, we call ourselves the non-manufacturing pharmaceutical industry because we don't manufacture here in Malaysia. That's the reason why you were hearing about roles for doctors would be like clinical research, pharmacovigilance, medical liaison, medical affairs, right? But if you were to be working in MOPI particularly, in companies that are local pharmaceutical companies, it will be a different ball game. Yeah, you need to know about GMP, about local manufacturing. So it's a different kind of roles, different kind of requirements. So ultimately, what I want to say is that the opportunities are very, very vast, and the scope is far wider than you can imagine. All right? I'll just talk very quickly about PhAMA. The thing is that people don't know us. Yeah, we've been around for 50 over years, but most people have only started hearing about PhAMA in the last 4 years. Why? Because we only started having social media in the last 4 years. And yes, if you're not on digital platform, you don't exist. Yeah, so we only started having social media platform 4 years ago, and now people are aware of what we do. So you can follow us to find out what we do. We do a lot of different kinds of stuff, which I'll explain to you later. So these is our 4 pillars of focus. So mainly we do a lot of advocacy work. What is the kind of advocacy we're talking about? So for example, if there were certain new policies within the government, we will need to liaise with our members and to bring up the issues or the challenges that we face to the government to say that, you have these new policies in place and they're not practical for us, or they are just not implementable in many ways. So we have to work with them to amend those criteria or policies. One very interesting example would be like what we did last year, 2 years ago actually. There was a new guideline for medicine access schemes. I'm not sure whether some of you are aware of, I'm sure all of you as doctors, you will know medicine access schemes, right? Because some of our drugs are really expensive, but we have medicine access schemes where if you buy a certain number of drugs, you get a certain number free, right? So that's a medicine access scheme. So 2 years ago, when NPRA came out with their new guidelines for medicine access schemes, they categorized medicine assistance, patient assistance programs and patient patient assistance programs and PASP, there's a PhAMA, and then there's samples. So all 3 assistance programs are now being wrapped up under medicine access schemes. But the problem is they use the word samples, and they turn the word samples into gifts, hadiah. So when that appeared in the guideline as hadiah, suddenly every single multinational company is unable to provide you samples anymore, because under the guidelines is now known as hadiah. So later we had to do a lot of interaction with NPRA to explain that we are unable to comply and we can no longer provide you with our samples because it doesn't fulfill our compliance regulations, you see. So after a lot of interaction and a lot of advocacy, finally NPRA realized that, okay, they have to release a statement to say this is an internal document and they will not be using the word hadiah or gifts, and we can actually revert to the actual use of these products as samples. Yeah, so that is advocacy. Of course, we do a lot of industry support as well, especially in terms of regulatory affairs, in terms of the code of which I'm going to talk about. We do a lot of strategic partnerships. That's why we are here today to talk to everybody about what we do, and of course, a lot of capability building. One of the capability building which I like to bring your interest to is the annual career day that we conduct. Now, surprisingly, our career day has always been targeted at fresh graduates. So just now when I heard the kind of questions and the kind of interest that was coming from the crowd, we realized that probably the career day might be relevant for doctors who are looking at different options from your current career. So you can see from all this, you can see this in our social media under our events page whenever we have the career day. Unfortunately, this year our career day is going to be in Kuching. But if you like to catch our career day, what happens during the career day is that different roles within a pharma company will be speaking to let you know more about what is a role that might be suitable for you. So you've just heard the earlier panel, just 3 of them, right? But there is more. There's far more than that. You can go into government affairs, corporate affairs. You can go into market access. You can go into regulatory affairs. You see, so there's so many other roles within a pharma company. These are all the things in which different opportunities that are available to you. All right. These are basically a quick look at our members. So the members for pharma, only for pharma, yeah, not for MOPI and for MAPS. As you can see, they are all mostly the multinational companies. So we are agnostic. We are non-commercial, We're non-profitable. So basically, if you like to know anything about the pharmaceutical industry, the non-manufacturing pharmaceutical industry, you can come and speak to us. We have a booth here. I see a lot of you asking questions about what is the first step forward if you like to join any one of these, or if you have got any kind of collaborations that you want to work with, you can come and talk to us, because we get a lot of requests as well, especially coming from academia. A lot of universities come to speak to us whenever they need to have any collaborations. We are not necessarily able to provide you with the collaboration, but we can bridge you to someone within our member who is able to assist you. This is how it works, all right? So we are also connected to global associations. Of course, the most important is the IFPMA. So that is like our mothership, yeah, our sort of our source of reference for anything that's to do with the global industry. So there is also PhAMA, there's also the GSCF, APRIA, as well as other chambers of commerce as well. And these are our work streams. I'd just like to touch very quickly on our work streams, also to let you know on what we do. So as I said, there are different types of roles within the pharma industry. So you don't, I like what it wasn't Dr. Jagai, it was Dr. Syed just now who said, right, you don't have to sell drugs. Don't worry that if you were to join a pharma company, that you'll be expected to be a drug rep. No. In fact, now things are changing so fast that we no longer call them drug reps anymore. They're no longer called salespeople. They have fancy names for them now, like patient journey advocates and different types of terms. We don't even call them drug reps anymore, you see, because we recognize the importance of their role. And like it or not, let me just tell you one secret, yeah? Actually, this is the first gateway for you to join a pharma company. You try to join as an MSL, you try to join in any other role, you will find that there's very limited vacancies. I saw one of the questions just now asking, what is the first way to join? Especially when you don't have the experience, right? The reason why it's so difficult for you to join is because there are very limited roles within these pharma companies. And usually these limited roles are very quickly filled up within the network. That means the news pass around. That's, for example, like Dr. Jega and Sanofi, there's a vacancy. The news spreads around very quickly and it gets filled up by people whom you know. So that's why the reason it said that, you have to increase your net worth. Just get one foot in. Doesn't matter what you do. So like what Dr. Syed was saying just now, take a pay cut first. Just join the industry. Usually the role that is available all year round is in sales. So just join sales first. And the good thing about the pharma industry is that the potential is very vast. And if you prove yourself within the first 6 months, you can easily move around. They call it a role expansion. So whatever role that you have just accepted at possibly a reduced salary, if you find that there's something else that you're interested in within your company, you can request to be part of that, to say that, there's that program. Can I just volunteer to participate in that? So later, as you participate in more programs that are not within your own job scope, you will find that you will get noticed and you will be able to move up the ranks rather quickly. I think earlier on, a lot of the speakers have said the same thing, yeah? The earlier session, as well as the second speaker just now, Dr. Israfil, also mentioned the same thing, right? He just worked for 1 year and very quickly his trajectory for his career moved up very quickly, because this industry is one that is very, very competitive. And if you can show that you are very good, you will very quickly get recognized and very quickly get rewarded for it. Yeah? Okay, so these are the work streams within my association. My association says that within my association, we have got these different work streams. There is intellectual property and policy, there is access and procurement, there's clinical research, regulatory affairs, ethics, marketing, capability building. So when I say that these are the roles within the association, they also mean that these are the roles for every pharma company, because the committee members will consist of my members. So for example, let's just pluck out clinical research. So in my clinical research committee, I have members from every single company every single multinational company that is conducting clinical research in Malaysia. So currently I have got, of course, MSD is there, I have got Roche, I have got AstraZeneca. So all the companies that are conducting clinical research in Malaysia, they will send one member of their company to be a member of my committee. So just by looking at this, you already know what are the different type of opportunities available for you, okay? So out of all these, I'm going to zoom down into the ethics committee because that's why I'm here today, to tell you about our code, all right? So the code falls within our ethics committee. So as what some of the earlier speakers had alluded to, this industry is very tightly regulated, and that's why we are here today. Yeah, there are a lot of rules and regulations that we need to follow. These code initially used to be called the Code of Ethics, but we have changed that now to be called the Code of Practice, and it's nothing new. It was actually started in the 1970s. I think some of you are also not born yet, huh? 1970s already there is the code, to say what you can do and what you cannot do. Why? Why do we have such a code? That is to make sure that the industry is very ethical in all its practices. Yep. So we want to make sure that the doctors are protected from any bad practices, as well as the pharmaceutical industry as well, the companies as well as the staff who are working in pharma industry. We want to make sure that everybody who is involved in this sector are all ethical and they all follow the code so that nobody goes wrong. Okay? So I wanted to point out the last row. Yeah. So the companies that are found to have breached the code, they will be fined. Yeah, and they will be subject to adverse publicity. And reputation is very important for MNCs. So to have adverse publicity, that's very bad. Yeah, so I think the adverse publicity probably hurts them more than the code itself. So over the years, I think I've showed earlier, right? This is the addition of the codes. Since 1970 right up to this year, we have launched the 23rd edition. We've just launched the new edition. So please feel free to take a look at it later. So we have progressed through the years according to the trends. So the latest trends that we have included in would be like, for example, what was mentioned earlier about what do we do with AI and these digital trends that is coming up. We ought to have certain codes with regards to that, right? Certain governance on how we are going to conduct our business. So if your company is found to have contravened the code and someone reports you, we do an investigation and you're found to be guilty, we can fine you and we will announce that your company has done this and this and this. This is how some companies that has been caught, I want to use the word bribing doctors, sending them for fancy overseas trips, etc. That's how they were being called out and they were fined, and that's how we improve the processes over the years. This is to ensure there is ethical behavior, okay? Now, the cases in the last decade, this is just in Malaysia alone, yeah? We're not talking about international. But in Malaysia alone, there have been many cases where companies have been fined, and when they appeal, we found them still to be guilty and they are still being fined. And the fine is at least 100,000. So, the cases can be like using excessive words in your marketing or, sending doctors to trips, etc. You see, so the cases all can be very varied, but these are the cases in the last 10 years. Now, these are the chapters within the code. There are basically 14 chapters. So they will be looking at, of course, we start with the objective and the scope, and then we talk about the general principles. There is also a chapter on the pre-approved and off-label communications, meaning products that are not yet registered or products that are off-label. So we actually have governance for that as well. So I was quite intrigued by the earlier speaker who spoke about stem cells and the regenerative medicine. Yeah, I liked what regenerative medicine is doing, and I don't think pharma companies are against it. What we are against is just the lack of governance. So for a fair playing field, if everybody has the same level of governance, I think we can all work together to improve the healthcare systems and to improve the health and the lives of human beings. So I would not agree that pharma companies are against regenerative medicine. No, we are not against that. We're just against the lack of governance and the lack of rules, you see, because we are very strictly governed. So it should be fair for everyone as well, for the safety of the patient. And of course, we have the standards of promotional materials, meaning that, all the flyers that you receive, they all go through multiple levels of corrections and multiple levels of approval. So it's not easy in order for this marketing material to reach the hands of doctors. So I'm just going to tell you what would be the ones in which doctors like yourselves would be interested in. This chapter in particular, number 5, interactions with healthcare providers. Now, you might find this of interest to you, as well as support for clinical, for CMEs, as well as grants and donations, and company procedures and responsibilities. Why do I say these chapters are the most important? Because most doctors find it difficult to understand when the drug rep comes to see you and you request for something and they have to decline, or they will have to apologize because they say, oh, cannot, it goes against our code, it goes against the PhAMA code, and you find it challenging to understand why. Because if they were to contravene the code and they get reported, they may get fined for it, you see. So this is particularly relevant, for example, like if you are holding a program, or you are holding a conference and you are trying to request for sponsorships and you get rejected. So it's not that the companies are trying to make it difficult for you, it's just that it has to be done in the correct way and it has to abide by the code. A very simple example is the use of a venue. So sometimes if you're holding a conference and your venue is at a place like Langkawi Beach Resort, so if there is a word beach resort there, automatically it will not be approved, because it gives the impression that you're there for luxury and enjoyment instead of scientific exchange. So we are very strict on things like that. And you cannot hold a conference or a seminar overseas if the majority of the doctors are local. So, for example, I organized a CME in Vietnam, in maybe Da Nang Bay, and 90% of them are Malaysians. So the question would be, why are you holding it in Da Nang? Why don't you hold it here in Malaysia for the Malaysian doctors, you see? So there is always this sense of inducement, and that's why, we are not allowed to do things like that. So, this is why I'm saying number 5 and number 8, number 9. Now, this will be important to you. But number 13 is particularly important because while the code is already very strict, the companies themselves have got internal codes that are even more strict. So you have to understand why sometimes your requests get rejected or declined, okay? So if you'd like to find out about the code, there are some hard copies outside, but I don't think you will need it. Just scan this QR code and you'll be able to see the whole book. Otherwise, you can go to the PhAMA website and you can find the code there as well. So in case you'd like to find out why certain things are not able to be approved, you understand. Okay, this is the latest edition, the 23rd edition. It was just launched in February 2025. I want to just go very quickly into the latest advancement in pharmaceutical labeling, that is e-labeling. Now, this is something that's already being used around the world, and Malaysia, I'm proud to say, is leading this together with MPRA in the region. In the last APEC meeting in April, Malaysia had presented on how e-labeling is conducted here in Malaysia, and we had actually surpassed our neighboring countries, including Singapore. So what exactly is e-labeling? Basically, what I want to inform everyone here is that in time to come, you will no longer have that paper insert in your medicine tablets, because we all know nobody reads those anyway, but we need to have those paper inserts because they contain important information, particularly with regards to contraindications, and of course your risks and all that. So we needed to have those paper inserts, but now we have moved those paper inserts into a digital platform. So in time to come, you will no longer find the paper inserts. So what is the value And why are we moving towards that direction? Easily we know why, because you get real-time information. Some people think that the reason why we are removing paper inserts and moving into e-labeling is because we want to save money on the printing of those papers. Yeah, of course, we do get to save some money, which is being put back into other users. But the most important thing for us is that with e-labeling, now the information for that particular drug or particular product is now up to date, up to real time. Because our research continues all the time, even after a drug has gone to the market. So every time there is a new discovery, you cannot recall all your products and put in the latest paper insert. But with e-labeling, now we can do that. Every time it's updated, every time we discover something new, we can put it into the PDF and upload it, and it will be the latest scientific information and the latest up-to-date information that all doctors need to know about a particular drug. Of course, it improves patient safety, and as a result, it enhances the understanding of the patient towards a certain medication. We find that with e-labeling, it's much easier because patients are able to zoom in. Now that it's on the PDF, on the MPRA Quest 3 Plus website, you can zoom in and it's easier because we have heard a lot of patients, the main complaint about the paper insert is that it's just way too small. How to look at the font when it's so tiny, right? That's why nobody reads it. Yep. So now with e-labeling, you can zoom in and you can read properly. Of course, we can reduce paper wastage. Now we are all talk about climate change, etc. Right? There is greater convenience. You can find this information anytime, anywhere by logging online. So let's say you lose the paper insert and you're halfway through your medications and you want to know, oh my goodness, so I'm starting to develop some rashes, but you throw away the paper already. What do? You can just go online to check out the paper inserts. So this is the convenience that we are talking about. And it complies to the global compliance as well, for the evolving regulatory requirements in different regions around the world, okay? This is the e-labeling milestones. It only just got started, only just got launched late last year, but the discussions have started since 2019 when the industries got together with MPRA and we spoke of how we need to move forward with paper inserts because it's no longer relevant in today's world. So this is how we continue to evolve. You see, that's why I say it's a very competitive, very advanced industry. So in 2021, we came up with a joint task force to come up with how we want to do the implementation of e-labeling here in Malaysia. And 2022, we had formed a joint task force of which I am one of the members. In 2023, we actually started the first pilot project, and this is where we are today. Today, we have done a study, and as of March, we have had more than 500 products that are already practicing e-labeling. That's why, in case you're wondering why some products no longer have that paper insert, it's because of e-labeling. We're moving away from the use of paper as a patient insert. So the latest study was just in September, yes. So there are 621 products, which is 11.33% of all pharmaceutical products. So in time to come, you get to see more and more uptake of the e-labeling, all right? And because the response is so good, we've expanded it on a voluntary basis to OTC products as well as of August. So later, we will start to see even OTC products will no longer have paper inserts. Okay? So this is how it works. Basically, in the past, you'll find a piece of paper, right? So now it's a QR code. So as you zoom that QR code, it brings you to MPRA on the Quest 3 Plus website, and there you can look at the latest product information. Yeah, so this is where Malaysia is leading because we insisted that we want to use a platform that will instill trust among the users for doctors, for patients. In other countries, like for example in Singapore, the e-labeling was implemented by the companies themselves. So even though the companies themselves have implemented it and they like the usage, but the trust levels are just not there. So as a result, the uptake was not so good. But in Malaysia, because it's a collaboration between the Ministry of Health as well as with the industry, so the uptake is very good, and both patients and physicians find it very useful to use the A-labeling system. Okay, so that's all I have from my side. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. A lot of information provided there, with e-labeling, and also Malaysia as a leading nation when it comes to following up with tech.